They're 4,000 members strong. They come from all over Canada seeking adventure.
150.
Not only do they play a vital role in safeguarding Canada's maritime security, they also serve overseas.
Port steer 060.
More than part-time sailors, they are a key component of the Navy. These are civilians who dedicate their spare time to serve. These are Naval Reservists, citizen sailors. The Canadian Navy. For nearly 100 years, its ranks have been filled by dedicated Canadians standing watch at sea. It is rich in tradition and deep in history, forged of battles fought and won and sacrifices made. Today is Battle of Atlantic Sunday, and Lieutenant Commander Carmen Lapointe is a little nervous.
I don't know. I'll have to find out when he gets here.
She is Master of Ceremonies for this event.
I, as a Master of Ceremony, basically have control onto the timing of the ceremony. So the parade commanders and all the other people take their cues off of me at most times during the ceremony.
She's also a Naval Reservist, a part-time sailor. In her day job, she's a civil engineer. 2 nights a week and an odd weekend such as this, she trains and works for the Canadian Navy. She's the operations officer at HMCS Carleton, the Naval Reserve Division in Ottawa. Being MC for the Battle of the Atlantic ceremony is just one of the perks of this part-time job. Today's weather may be a little damp, but these master mariners are used to wet conditions. The Battle of the Atlantic, the longest continuous military campaign of the Second World War. Battles raged at sea. The enemy was starving the Allies by cutting off overseas communications and supplies.
The elements were often as vicious as the foe, with raging storms, pack ice, bitter cold, fog, and the dense blackness of the North Atlantic nights.
Canadian seamen and airmen played a vital role in maintaining this lifeline. As the menace at sea grew, Canadians took on an increased role in the defense of the North Atlantic. It began the war with just 13 vessels and 3,500 personnel, but the Royal Canadian Navy grew to become, for a brief time, the 3rd largest of the Allied navies. At war's end, it had 373 fighting ships and more than 110,000 members, including 6,500 women. But who accounted for this rapid expansion of the Canadian Navy? The Naval Reserve. In 1914, just 1 month before the outbreak of World War I, the Royal Canadian Navy Volunteer Reserve was created. It allowed the Navy trained personnel to meet its combat and support objectives in times of peace, crisis, or war. Created in 1923, the Naval Reserve filled its ranks with civilians who volunteered as part-time sailors. Units formed in landlocked cities in an effort to promote the role of the Navy.
A handful of Canadians then committed themselves during a time of peace to prepare their country to defend itself at sea during a time of war. From that day to this, Canadian men and women have served their country selflessly and with great courage and distinction in Canada's Navy.
6,000 men from the Volunteer Reserve served during World War I. At times during World War II, reservists accounted for half of Canada's naval strength. The only member of Canada's Navy to win a Victoria Cross during World War II was Lieutenant Robert Hampton Gray, a reservist.
Fundamentally, the Naval Reserve has been an integral part of the Navy of Canada for almost its entire existence. If the Naval Reserve had not been created before the war, we would not have been able, back in 1939, to expand the seagoing Navy the way we did and to have been able to actually win the Battle of the Atlantic. So the Naval Reserve then was fundamental. The Naval Reserve of today carries on that tradition.
There are over 4,000 members in the Canadian Naval Reserve, ready to augment the regular force Navy at any time.
It has unique roles and tasks, rolls off both coasts, and indeed into the Arctic as well, in terms of manning our coastal defense vessels. And then it also has the ability to provide port security and divers in even closer to shore. So the Naval Reserve's roles have changed slightly over the decades, but it's still a fundamental part of the Navy.
Coastal surveillance and patrolling, port security, mine countermeasures, naval intelligence, resource protection, law enforcement, search and rescue. Just a few of the responsibilities today's naval reservists have in order to safeguard Canada's maritime security. These are more than just part-time preoccupations. They're difficult and dangerous tasks that require a great deal of training. These naval reservists know it all too well. Naval Reservists. They patrol Canada's coasts. They ensure harbor safety. They provide assistance to communities in need of help. They deploy overseas. Not bad for part-time sailors. Sub-Lieutenant Heather Fogo is a naval reservist. By day, she's a law student. These days, she's got quite the schedule. Not only is she hard at work studying, she's finishing up a 10-month articling term at a local law firm, and all the while tending to her Naval Reserve duties.
A Naval Reservist is someone that works in the primary reserve of the Canadian Forces, and we essentially work part-time. You can work full-time as a reservist, either in a reserve billet or in a reg force ship, or there's various places that people work. It can be kind of a juggling act for reservists between your civilian jobs and your reservist job, either at night, on the weekends, or other training that you have to do.
In just a few months, once her articling is done, she'll be called to the bar and licensed as a lawyer.
Right now, I'm finishing soon, and I'm hoping to do a component transfer to the reg force, hopefully as a legal officer. So we'll see how that goes.
Heather, thanks very much for coming in. Look, as you know, I've got this 5-week trial coming up, and I need you to do some of the background search on their CV. Well, you know, it's funny because when she was first here, I didn't know her very well, obviously, because she just joins the firm. And I saw her leaving the office in combat fatigues. And that was the first idea that I had, that she was in the Naval Reserve. And then, of course, over the years, she's talked about her interests in the reserve. Thanks a lot, I appreciate that, eh?
No problem.
She has the ability to concentrate and to work, and to, when she's here at the workplace, does really work hard. I think she's disciplined. And I don't know for sure, but I would say that certainly being in the Naval Reserves has probably helped her in that regard.
Well, that was part of one of the reasons that I joined the Naval Reserve, the primary reserve in particular, is that I thought, maybe this is the life for me, maybe it's not, but at least I can check it out and see if I enjoy it, and especially in a full-time capacity. Good afternoon, Heather Fogo. A lot of the training intersects, and a lot of the skills I'm finding as a Naval Reservist are directly transferable to law. I'm finding there's a lot of overlap, and I'm hoping that that'll serve me well later.
At the end of the workday, Heather gets to trade in her high heels for her combat boots. Tonight, there's other business to attend to. Lawyer by day, reservist by night. It's almost like being a superhero. At the end of the day, her alter ego comes to life, and it's time for a more tactical approach. On top of working for the Naval Reserve, Heather has joined a Navy shooting team.
Once again, we're gonna start. Magazine in the pistol, nothing in the chamber. At the whistle, you draw, rack the slide.
It's the National Capital Region Navy Combat Shooting Team, and essentially what it is a group of Reg Force and reservists, and we have a series of competitions throughout the year for the shooting and marksmanship aspect.
As you tend to shoot, you tend to loosen up. Just like you're pushing on a door. Just feel that tension. Good. This relay.
We have both a rifle team and a pistol team, and it's just like any other sports team, except safety is the #1 concern, and we go out and do a lot of different drills with tactical shooting that a lot of people don't get a chance to do in the forces. We're trying to make a niche for ourselves on the Navy side of things.
Heather is the only reservist training with the team this evening.
The name of the team is the Naval Combat Shooting Team, and so we'll take anybody who's in a naval uniform. So if they're Reg Force or Reserve Force, they can join the team. Heather is the only female on the team, and pretty much one of the best shots on the team. I would rate her as probably the first or second best shot on the team. She's extremely consistent, very competitive, and she does very well in competitions.
I did okay. It's a fairly starting to get more difficult drill, so I do find that they balance each other out for me. It's a really nice mix to be able to concentrate all day and work in the law office, and then be able to come and do something really interesting and very tactical in the evenings. So it kind of balances it out. It's a long day though.
Long days are just the beginning. Soon, Heather will be leaving for summer training with the Naval Reserve, and she's not the only one. There are 24 Naval Reserve divisions across the country. In each of them, groups of reservists are getting ready to converge onto Quebec City for trades training at the Canadian Forces Fleet School. And this year, they're in luck. There's a pretty big party in town. Quebec City, scene of the confrontation between the two great powers that founded Canada, and a city rich in military history. It's the home of the Naval Reserve Headquarters and the Canadian Forces Fleet School, Quebec. The Naval Reserve Headquarters coordinates the activities of all 24 reserve units across the country. The Fleet School is the only school in the Canadian Navy primarily oriented towards reservists.
The main staple of the school is to train the Naval Reservists into their job. They're critical to the Navy because obviously one of our main purposes is have the core training courses to send the sailors on our maritime coastal defense vessel. Also, there's some specialty trainings. For example, our intelligence officer courses are employed within the Navy on the coast amongst our regular forces personnel, as well as the other elements. We have a couple of them that have deployed recently to Afghanistan, for example.
Okay, everybody, let's get started so we can finish early this lecture.
Trades training is the main field of activity here, but the school also allows for regenerative training of reserve and regular forces. It trains everything from naval combat information operators and naval communicators to weapons operators, maritime engineer system operators, and logistics officers. It's also the center of excellence for mine warfare training.
I completed a total of 14 weeks of basic training, and after that, we do our particular trade courses. So I've got 2 to finish, and once I do that, then I'm fully trade qualified.
There are mostly Naval Reservists in attendance, but there are a few regular force students as well. It's only the 2nd week of this basic intelligence officer course, and already the workload is piling up.
A lot of work. It's like university, except more difficult. Further background knowledge on the situation, and future insight into what may happen and what may be encountered by the commander. It's going pretty well. A lot of information though. There is a huge volume of things that we need to know, and we've already had quite a few tests already.
The aim of this lecture is to familiarize Vieux personnel to the IPV.
Lieutenant Cormier is a Naval Reservist teaching on a full-time contract. He's got quite the background. In his civilian job, he was a nurse.
I would say the experience is different. For the Reg Force, they have experience in the operational level. And for the Naval Reserve, we have people that has experience in the civilian street, which is quite interesting because their background give a plus to those people that doesn't have a clue what the civilian does. So their mission was to collect information from the adversary. All kind of information.
I'm having a great time. It's awesome here. I can't believe that they pay us to come here.
It's definitely a good time to be in Quebec City. There's a pretty big party going on. This is a week of festivities, part of the year-long celebration of Quebec's 400th anniversary, and everyone has been invited. There's a naval gathering in town. Ships from France, Ireland, the United Kingdom, and the United States will join 3 Canadian Navy ships for a little get-together. 7 military ships in port for 4 days. Close to 1,500 sailors from countries closely linked to Quebec's history will take over the town. The city hasn't seen the likes of this in 100 years. One of the vessels is Her Majesty's Canadian ship Summerside. It might not be the biggest or most impressive ship here, but it's got something the other vessels don't have. It's the only ship crewed entirely by Canadian Naval Reservists. And for this country, it might very well be one of the most important types of ships patrolling the waters. The Maritime Coastal Defense Vessel, MCDV. Its primary mission, coastal surveillance and patrol. It's no little feat.
It can be fitted out for a variety of roles: mine hunting, pollution control, sovereignty patrols, and very adaptable ship, very versatile.
We do various activities, including route surveys.
Do a lot of patrol work, fisheries work, a lot of training on board the ship for junior officers and all of the crew itself.
We've participated at times in search and rescues.
Now we're doing some really interesting stuff up north. This ship went up north last year.
Basically as helping out with RCMP and other agencies for drug enforcement and any of that kind of things.
There are 12 such Kingston-class ships on the Canadian fleet, and there's one thing in particular that distinguishes them from the rest. They're crewed by Canada's Naval Reserve. Lieutenant Commander Ron Gilby is the HMCS Summerside's captain. He joined the Naval Reserve in 1992 during his university studies.
I was casting about for a summer job that was better than pumping gas in small town Saskatchewan, and I happened onto the reserves, and it sounded very interesting, very a good way of expanding my horizons, and I joined the Naval Reserve. First started out as a diesel mechanic, then moved to officer and carried on since then. I don't know how it happened, but as somebody from the prairies, I found out I have a real taste for the ocean, and I feel very comfortable at it.
From captain right down to the bosuns, they're all reservists. Most of them joined as students looking for part-time jobs. Some are here for the summer. Others are on full-time contracts and have been in the Naval Reserve for over 10 years. Nonetheless, they're all responsible for one important thing: safeguarding the country's maritime sovereignty and protecting its shores.
Basically what we're doing is we're patrolling the coastal waters around,
and we basically hail all ships in Canadian coastal waters, and we'll question them as to where they're from, where they're going, their purpose for being in Canadian waters, and occasionally we will stop and slow down vessels of interest so that they can be boarded by either the Coast Guard, the RCMP, or even other Canadian warships.
The MCDV, designed and built to commercial standards, but with military specifications for key areas like stability, flood control, maneuverability, and ammunition storage. The sweep deck can accommodate different payloads to help the ship with its various roles, like a mechanical minesweeping system, a remote survey system, 2 types of remote-operated vehicles for bottom inspection, a containerized diving package, even additional accommodations when required for training. It's equipped with a 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft gun and 2 50-caliber machine guns to provide a basic level of self-defense. One thing is certain, there's no shortage of work for these Naval Reservists.
Steer 227.
227. So many things we do as bosuns. We have various jobs, from on-watch duties. We are up on the bridge with the captain and the officers driving the ship.
We're in charge of rescues. For example, if there's a man overboard, it's our job to get the boats ready to launch them, to drive to pick up the man and bring them back on board.
Okay, you want to just turn the wheel and make sure the steering's fine. The weapons, we handle all the weapons on board. We do maintenance and we know all the weapons drill. We're responsible for both 50 caliber gun, 40 mil, all the small arms. We handle all the evolutions on board, whether it be a replenishment at sea, tow, anything at all.
The machinery control room is the nerve center of the ship. Here, the team controls and monitors the ship's power generation equipment, used for main propulsion and services like heating, ventilation, fuel, water, and power to other ship systems.
The Z-drive unit, so that's kind of unique. It's basically the same sort of systems on the Queen Mary II. It's basically a system where you have no rudder, but you have a set of propellers that can turn 360 degrees. And from that, we are very maneuverable. We can basically stop within two boat lengths of ourselves, and it's a very good system.
The damage monitoring system monitors the ship's smoke and temperature sensors and alerts when there's an incident such as a flood or fire on board.
As you guys can see behind me, this is part of the console in our machinery control room. And my job right now, if you'll pardon me just a sec, that's good. The IFDFS alarm just went off, so that's not a good thing. Okay, come on, acknowledge. That means that we have a bilge alarm and we have some flooding down one of our spaces. So that's not actually supposed to happen, but I'm gonna go have a look anyway. Chances are I know exactly what it is. It's gonna be noisy back here. I'll be back in just a couple minutes. Yeah, I'm dealing with it. All right, bye. Adds to another task on the long list of things that we get to do. It's blocked now. It was starboard FMR. A little bit of water in the bilge. Nothing major anyways.
Obviously, there's no leaks there, so what we'll do is get the guys tonight or tomorrow to pump it out to the oily water and take care of it, okay?
Absolutely.
All right.
Master Seaman Andreas Riamaki is the senior naval electronics technician. He is one of only 2 regular force personnel on board for trades that aren't available through the reserves. He knows what being a naval reservist is all about.
Having come on board here now and worked with them for the last 18 months almost, it's been a real eye-opener. They're a dedicated, hard bunch of professionals. Schedule's constantly changing, their tasking's constantly changing, and these guys and girls are more than willing to adapt and change to whatever's thrown their way and do it with a smile on their face and have fun when the day is done.
The summer side est du longueur de 55 mètres.
When you work hard, you get to play hard. It's time for Captain Gilby's crew to put their game faces on. They're about to go up against some of the most powerful nations in the world. an international naval gathering to celebrate Quebec City's 400th anniversary. For the Naval Reservists of HMCS Summerside, this is one of the perks of their job.
There's a lot of events, there's hockey and a canoe race, so it should be a fun time, good time to meet new sailors and stuff like that too, from different countries, so it should be good.
Welcome to USS Mesa Verde, U.S. Navy's newest amphibious ship. It's built.
It's a good opportunity to meet some new people and take a look at some pretty impressive ships that made the trip. The USS Mesa Verde, an American amphibious warfare ship.
So how many people do you have on board?
We have 47, and that's basically the max that we can take.
We sometimes can turn into a hotel because we have a lot of extra space. The Marines aren't on board. We can also embark staff and various other people we need for different kinds of missions. So having a lot of extra space is nice.
The Cassard, a French anti-air warfare frigate.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
I'm the second master François Guilly. I'm petty officer, the first rank of petty officer. Welcome in the kitchen of the board, where there is cookers.
Everyone is in the mood to celebrate.
Your name is not Quebec, but for the 1400th anniversary of the town of Quebec, the cooks make something for you. They make a good French dinner.
C'est bon. That's all I know.
This is still a working weekend, but with a few more fun events that help boost troop morale.
Get my armor on for today. We're playing floor hockey today. They set up a little mini tournament for all the ships that are in, so we're going to play floor hockey. Starting about a half hour against Preserver, and then the Irish after that, and then the finals. So we'll be. You can see us on Victory Parade later. What's our plan? The objective here is to promote international relations, but win every game we play.
Fair enough.
So that's what we're gonna do.
Nice play.
Play that body.
Get it on, boys.
We need someone sitting down there because they're getting all their offensive on.
Any shot's a good shot. So start taking some and grabbing the net.
The hockey tournament is a welcome break from all the hard work at sea. Petty Officer Second Class Keegan Dawson has been in the Naval Reserve for 10 years now and knows it's not always this easy.
The biggest challenge for me was actually getting here. It was a lot of studying. Surprisingly, you know, I went through university. I did 4 years of university. I have a degree. And I did far more studying for this job and this qualification, being an engineering officer of the watch. That was my biggest challenge, and certainly one of my proudest moments was getting that.
Final score?
5-2.
5-3 Preserver. Another good game.
Good game, guys.
We got smoked that time. But it's all right. We'll beat the Irish. That's what matters.
The Summerside crew isn't one to back away from any challenges. Next on the schedule, a friendly canoe race on the St. Lawrence River against crews from the other ships.
I haven't been in a canoe for a long time, so I guess we'll see what happens. Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Look at the view. Wow.
Number 4 in your programs, first in your hearts. Summerside, right there.
The weekend has been short-lived. The crew must depart for new adventures in different waters. This is what being a Naval Reservist is all about.
Our sailors spend a good deal of time at sea. Any one of our sailors spends as much or more time at sea than the regular force counterpart.
It can be tiring and strenuous, little sleep on times. However, you get used to that. A few days out during a sail, you get used to the routine and get into the whole lifestyle of being on ship.
The schedule can be pretty hectic, but you know, it's a pretty rewarding job, and I certainly wouldn't be doing it if I didn't like it, right? So it's lots of fun. I guess at the end of the day, that's the best thing to say, lots of fun.
You guys are going to be throwing?
For the event's closing ceremonies, the HMCS Summerside will take part in a final sail past, along with some of the world's finest vessels. Dressed in their best, they'll receive a salute from the crowd and the cannons of the Citadel. It's a fitting tribute to the work they accomplish on a daily basis.
It is an essential component, an important part of our maritime command capability. To have them here this weekend is certainly significant. As they say sometimes, it is a smaller ship. They're busy little ships that do a lot. So it's very important, and certainly proud to have them here.
The ceremonies are over. It's back to work as usual. The Summerside has some other ships to meet. And this gathering will take place on a very different type of waterbed. Lake Ontario, the smallest of Canada's Great Lakes. You wouldn't expect to see a warship around these parts. Today, 3 of them are here. HMCS Summerside has joined 2 other MCDVs, HMCS Glace Bay and HMCS Shawinigan, for one very important reason. It's called Mars 4 training.
Okay, Captain Sir, Second Officer Watch, signaling execution, starboard beam at 500 yards. When the station guide will bear 090 at 500 yards in order to execute this maneuver. I intend to...
Right now we are in Lake Ontario, not too far from Kingston, and we're here conducting a Mars 4 course, which is the qualifying course for Maritime Services officers.
Sorry, range?
425 yards opening.
Say again?
500 yards closing.
Hello, recommend 347. 347.
A Mars officer is essentially your surface warfare officer in the Canadian Forces. So they are the trade that progresses towards command through various levels of increasing responsibility. They're your ship handlers, they're your weapons directors, and they're your captains.
The 3 ships are working together to provide students on board with quite a challenge.
Today is what's called Officer of the Watch maneuvers. The Officer of the Watch, the student, will have to maneuver our ship to get into an exact compass bearing and exact range in relation to another vessel whose course and speed are constant. This involves both filtering out various inputs, evaluating the information, coming up with a plan, briefing the captain on what they wish to do with his or her ship, and then actually getting the ship there.
Summerside bears 265, sir. Recommend.
And as if that wasn't enough,
you have 5 minutes.
Come right to course 191 at stationing speed, sir. Where's Glace Bay going? Where's Glace Bay going?
Our previous position was we were a beam lifter. And what happens is us, Shawinigan, and Summerside, take positions around the guide ship at Glace Bay. This involves a lot of relative math because the guide has one course and one speed. And we have to figure out, we can't just drive to the next station because the next station is always moving. Go the next signal.
There are 5 Mars 4 students on board each ship today. They'll each take their turn as Officer of the Watch, performing 8 maneuvers per set. When they're not up as Officer of the Watch, they'll fill other positions and help their teammates with communications or relative velocity.
I'm the communicator. It's my job to interpret the signal that we receive and figure out where the ships are going relative to each other. It's the relative velocity officer's job to figure out how we're getting there. It's the officer of the watch's job to literally drive it, but they're ultimately responsible for the safety of the ship. So it's definitely a hefty job, but with a lot of responsibility, and that's what we're all training for.
Wait, port!
I think in like 30 seconds something's about to happen. So.
Starboard thruster.
Lieutenant Lisa Morell is first up as officer of the watch. She's been up since midnight, working as second officer of the watch until 4 a.m. She then used the early hours of the morning to prepare some briefings and navigational plans for the day. She's on her second set of maneuvers.
Hey, Lieutenant Morell?
Sir?
Did you see what went on?
550 yards closing.
Sir?
We had a breakdown in communication.
Yes,
The
sir.
guide is not Summerside.
The guide
The guide
is...
is Glace Bay.
Roger, sir.
Adjust your solution. Put us 500 yards on Glace Base.
Is she steering the guide's course?
As they execute their maneuvers, they'll rely on feedback from the captain and all the other reserve personnel on board. After all, Captain Neil Hanratty has been there before and knows what he's doing.
I am working with the course training officer to be a mentor to the students, to provide them the guidance that they need to develop into capable ship handlers. Certainly in this, not only am I assessing the students, but I'm also providing them some feedback and some input to improve their performance in the future.
Roger. Correct.
Steer 177. Steer 177.
So if you have a maneuver exited every 5 minutes, a minute and a half is taken up just figuring out the map behind the signal. Maybe a minute's taken up interpreting the signal, figuring out and reporting it. That leaves the officer to watch 2.5 minutes to figure out, get her head around what's going on. And of course she's doing that while she's executing the previous signal, while she's driving to the next station. So her job is, it's a lot. It's a lot.
What maneuver needs to be coming next?
This is going to be a ship's wheel. Okay, we're going to turn in a line, maintaining relative bearings and distances.
Right. Okay.
Mars training, as you learn very quickly, is learning from the fire hose. They never stop throwing information at you. They never stop hoping for you to retain more and more and more. So it's a scary way to learn it, but it works pretty well.
Captain Sir Alpha Watch signal has been executed.
Very good.
When you do it right, it's like perfectly executed choreography, a ballet for ships. For these Naval Reservists, it's a thrilling experience.
I joined 3 years ago at HMCS Prevost. I decided that I wanted to work for, an honorable, a clean, someone whose intentions are perfectly sound. And there's a little bit of Navy history in the family, so I was like, ooh, a Mars officer, eh? What's that? What's that? And learned a bit more about it. And I signed up, and I've been doing it in my summers ever since. I'm still in school, still in university. And it's a great part-time job because my friends are off working, cutting lawn at the local golf country club, and I'm off here driving warships around the Great Lakes for the summer. So I like it. Yeah. I like it. It's good.
I think the best part of the day was ending up trying something that was maybe a little bit out of my comfort range and something I hadn't tried before with the maneuvers and having it work out really well. It's nice when those things happen, come together, because everything that we've trained for and everything we learned kind of all comes together in one moment, and you think, wow, this is kind of neat. Okay, this is why I'm doing this.
Oh, the challenge. If it was easy, everyone would do it. And because it's not, and you really have to push for it, and you really have to want it, and that's what makes it fun.
For these reserve Mars officers, it's just the beginning. This is only the second week of a 10-week training phase. They still have a lot to learn if they want to earn their bridge watch ticket and be in charge of a ship. Training and force generation is just another one of the Naval Reserve's missions. But it doesn't just happen at sea. If disaster strikes in a community, reservists are often called upon to help, and they never know what they might be asked to do. Mooney's Bay, Ottawa. Port inspection divers are getting ready for a training mission.
We're free-swimming divers whose primary function is to locate and identify explosive ordnance in the water. We also conduct surveys for ecology or structural soundness in built-up harbors. We do ship repair work, propeller changes, that kind of thing. We work as rescue swimmers if we're on board a ship.
These divers are Naval Reservists, so diving is their part-time job. But it's one of the toughest jobs in the Navy.
We definitely have the toughest job in the Naval Reserve, bar none. There's no question about that.
Diving is high-risk work. Restricted visibility, confined areas, and hazardous situations make the job demanding both physically and mentally. The consequence of error can be fatal, so divers have to be in top physical shape and dive often to maintain their qualifications.
All divers must dive at least once every 90 days. So we're diving on a constant basis. As reservists, not every single person can come out on every single dive, which means we have to do a lot of diving to allow everyone the opportunity to maintain those currencies.
Tonight, these reservists are diving for another, rather interesting reason.
This dive is actually really important for a number of different reasons. Our trade is really primarily about finding things. And this was an opportunity actually where we stumbled upon an item as we were doing another dive for pure training purposes. And it kind of gave us an opportunity to kind of bring back to the community a little bit.
On a recent training dive, leading seaman Teri Lynn Jones discovered something rather unusual.
We came upon a wheel and don't usually find stuff in this area very often, so we were checking it out, and as the sediments start moving around we started noticing dates on it and numbers, so we thought that was pretty cool. It wasn't just a normal wheel either with spokes as if like a bicycle would have. They were more curved and a little bit more fancy than your typical wheel, so yeah, we thought it was pretty interesting.
Through further inspection, the divers realized that the wheel was part of an old lock system. Tonight, the team will dive to relocate the wheel, mark it, and take some underwater pictures and video footage to try to identify it.
We'll know when they find the item because they actually have a pelican float, which is a yellow float on yellow polyprop, and it'll suddenly pop up on the surface, and that means they've marked it.
That big sheet of strap metal sticking up from the bottom, it's over 10 feet long. See it from a distance, just follow it along.
I would be interested in this wheel for myself. I like that everything I find underwater I bring up and I bring it home and I display it somewhere, but because of the dates on it, seeing that it could be from the early 1900s, that we've had a few people from various corporations around the community, around Ottawa, museums contacting us, Parks Canada contacting us, wanting to know what it is and then find out where it originated from.
If it turns out to be an artifact of interest, they may eventually be called upon to retrieve it. For the divers, it's just one more service they're providing to their community.
As a Naval Reservist, we're sometimes partnering with the OPP or the RCMP or the local police sometimes when they're needing local or extra arms to go and help in a search. Not just as divers, but just as reservists. If there's any kind of local disaster, they need extra bodies, filling sandbags, shoveling snow, whatever. We're usually there helping out wherever we can. It's one of our mandates, yeah.
Naval Reservists were there to fight the Manitoba floods in 1997. They were there to help out during the Swiss Air disaster in 1998. They are currently serving in Afghanistan. Whether it's at home, at sea on their own class of ships, or even overseas, Naval Reservists are providing an important service to the Canadian Navy.
I believe that of all of the Naval Reservists that consider themselves available for employment, approximately 98 or 99% of those are working now, which is, a tremendous number. I think, I like to think that, the Navy couldn't get along without the reservists, and certainly we can't get along without the Navy, so it works out very well.
Most Naval Reservists would agree they wouldn't go without what the Navy brings to their lives.
The best thing about being a reservist is I can go away and do really exciting things on the evenings and weekends that normal people can't do.
The best thing about this trade is the people, without a doubt.
I'm 20 years old and get to play around on get to work hard on a warship. I don't know many people that can actually do that.
The one thing that I really enjoy sometimes is the serenity when you're at sea.
I have my own ship. I'm a captain of a ship. It just doesn't get any better than that. It's the best ship, the best job afloat.
Personally, it's a big part of my identity and who I am. I get a sense of fulfillment from it. I feel like I'm making a difference in the world, and I feel like my life is going somewhere and I'm doing something positive and working towards something.
They're dedicated to what they do. They contribute to society as working civilians.
620 yards opening!
And spend the rest of their time serving their country. They are twice citizens, Naval Reservists, citizen sailors.
A lot better, yeah. So we're actually connecting on some shots. Let's get some opportunities. I'd save or two there, huh? Yeah, you're playing pretty solid back there.
Saving your energy.
I'm gonna jinx you right now, you're gonna get a shutout. Not cool. Not cool.
For my sunglasses.